Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Geeked Out. My name is Kyle,
And I'm Juan here.
and this week we are on week two of our severely underrated film series. And this week was my pick, and I wanted to go back and watch a college comedy that I felt for a long time was severely underrated. That movie is called Accepted.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this movie was first released on August 18th of 2006. It is about a high school slacker who's recently been rejected by every college he's applied to and decides that the solution is to create a fake college at a rundown piece of property near his hometown in order to fool his parents. The movie was directed by Steve Pink. It stars Justin Long, Jonah Hill, Blake Lively, Maria Thayer, and Lewis Black. It currently has a 6.4 out of 10 rating on IMDb and a Rotten Tomatoes score of 38% with an audience rating of 72. It had an estimated budget of $23 million dollars, and it brought in a worldwide box office of 38.6. So, first thing I want to ask is, when did you see this movie first?
Honestly, it had to be a rental. I don't think is a movie that I would have seen in theaters, but
I,
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it was a rental.
yeah, I definitely didn't see this in theaters. I don't really even remember this being overly advertised. And this would have been right in my wheelhouse because I graduated high school in '04. So this would just 2 years after I graduated, this would have been right in where I wanted to see something like this.
Yeah, and I I'm a sucker for remembering TV spots in trailers. Just depends on if there's anything worth remembering. And I do remember this trailer because it caught my eye. I was it 2006?
Yeah.
So I was in college at the time, and or just heading into college because it was in August. So I it kind of spoke to me, at least the trailer, and a certain scene with Jonah Hill that was in the trailer that definitely even if you didn't see the movie, it was just one of those things that if you were a teenager or just a very immature young man, there's a line that he says that was uttered a lot, especially probably during that summer.
So I know the exact scene you're referring to, and I'll be honest, that's not even my favorite Jonah Hill moment of the movie.
Oh no, there's another one
If
that
I
I
don't know
forgot.
if yours is the same as mine, but even now when I've seen this movie, I've seen this movie many times. I still crack up
Oh,
laughing when he does it.
we might. I don't even know if it's two different or the same because he's. This is honestly you. Good job, good pick, man. Honestly, this is a very underrated movie. Even the scores, I don't agree with entirely. What was the Rotten Tomato score again?
The critic score was 38% and the
Yeah,
audience was 72.
that's absolutely ridiculous. Like,
I identify a hell of a lot more with the audience rating. There's no way I think this movie deserves a 38%.
and I don't know what the critics are smoking because honestly, like,
Honestly, it's because it's a comedy. I think that's a big thing. Is if you look at a lot of IMDb or movies on Rotten Tomatoes, I should say, if you're just a basic comedy like this, and it's not like a big time Will Ferrell movie or something like that, this is the type of rating you're going to get. Because I mean, let's
yeah,
be
but
honest. Well,
I
if
I
you think
I
about who's
agree.
in this movie, sorry, what were you saying?
No, I agree with that. But like, I, I would say I am a critic apprentice, a junior critic. But like, I'm starting to get that, or training myself to have that more critique mind. And when it comes to the writing and at least a movie having a message, I think this movie is it definitely succeeds in that. I think there's a whole lot of messages in this movie that speak to a lot of people that are going through or have gone through a lot of the things that these characters, we'll dive into it, once we get further into the review, but this is very relatable. Whether you're going through this time currently, you've gone through this time, or you're the type to or the type of person that these characters are. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I as we get into the movie, I'll explain more. Sorry to be so vague right now.
No, no, I totally agree. I think this movie has several really great lessons, and like you say, it is relatable. Um, and I think of that, like I was saying, if you're making a movie that's not a big budget with Kevin Hart and Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell and all those big names in comedy, this is the type of rating you're going to get. Because if you really stop and think about who's in this movie, I mean, Justin Long is, I don't want to say he's a nobody, but this is really the first movie that I can think of that he was kind of the lead, that they gave him the keys to the kingdom type thing and let him spearhead a film. And I mean, I'm going to be honest, I think he did a great job. I'm a big fan of Justin Long. I always have been.
Yeah, for sure. Same.
Um, Jonah
I'm
Hill's
like,
great as the in the supporting role. Even the Maria Thayer who plays Rory, and the guy who plays Hans, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head. Um, I'm actually just quickly looking that up.
yeah, the names I'm
Columbus Short is his name. I don't recognize him from a whole lot. I mean, but I think all of them did a really good job, kind of bouncing off each other and the chemistry that they had on screen. Um,
oh
I
yeah.
just
Same.
I think it was a typical thing that the critics looked at and was like, yeah, it's just a typical teenage comedy. It's the same as everything else, and that's kind of all it was.
Which is a shame. It's a shame, man.
But this is the second week in a row that we get another dose of fat Jonah Hill.
This movie is so much more than just a basic comedy, man. There's so much more to this that I feel like more people should watch it. Definitely, because I guarantee that the messages and the themes and the things that uh, are Justin Long's character is going through, and just his character in general, uh, would speak to a hell of a lot more people,
Now
especially
I will
in today's world.
now I will say I think that because we live in Canada, I think the whole post secondary education system is a little bit different.
Yes,
Um, so I don't know a lot of
in some
people.
ways.
Well, when I was a kid, when I was graduating high school, I don't remember there was a whole lot of people who applied to all these colleges and didn't get into any or things like that. I think it's much, much more competitive in the States when it comes to things like SAT scores and all those other things. And I mean,
Yes.
at least over here, like over there, they just call it everything is college. Everything is the same thing. Whereas viewed as the same thing. Whereas over here, it's the university and college thing, where college is more of a community college aspect that they refer to in the States, which is kind of seen in the eyes of this movie anyways as like the downtrodden. They're talking like the higher, the almost like the Ivy League, the hoity-toity type of places is what
Yeah.
this is kind of referring to. And it's like, oh yeah, everybody has to go. That's just what's expected of you. And it's like, is it though? Because there's a lot of people out there who didn't do that, and but I don't know a lot of kids who were rejected like the way it's portrayed in this movie.
No, you would have been rejected from like maybe the top universities that we have here in Canada, but if you wanted to go down a certain path, there are many different ways that you can go about it, whether you go at the highest level or somewhere more of our like college, which is I guess more like the US community college kind of route. You can still get to your destination. There's just if you want to there's just many different paths. But in the States, because I think isn't our schooling system, like our universities, they're tied with the government. I don't think anybody specifically owns the university, right? Or is
I
that, am I
don't
wrong?
I don't believe so. I could be wrong. I've never really looked into that
Me
aspect,
neither.
but
But I know for a fact
they're
in the
private in the
state,
States.
the private, so it's a business, really, right? And you get that when you really get that when you're watching this movie with how nonsensical it is when it comes to picking what you want to be. It depends on what you want to be. I know Blake's Lively character, she was explaining how she was trying to get into a
Oh, the
certain.
photography class thing.
Exactly. So
That
that
whole
was,
scene just makes me shake my head.
yeah, but it explains how, again, nonsensical it is and how much of a business the the US college system is.
Yeah, because she says something about like she wanted to take a photojournalism class, but then her advisor said that that's for journalism students. And then she wanted to take an art photography class, but that's for fine art majors. And neither of those photography classes go towards a degree in photography. It's like the way that she explains it as the way that she's been told by her own collegiate advisor is so convoluted that
Yeah.
you just sit there scratching your head because you're like, that doesn't make sense. And yet that's how the way some of these things are done. Like I attended both university and college, um, and the way that this movie portrays the system over there is exactly what the quote unquote university here is, where you've got 300 to 400 students and it's just nonstop lectures and professors are droning on and people are falling asleep in class, and like that montage scene where he goes on the tour of Harmon is is very realistic to what a lot of colleges and universities are like. I mean, I don't know if it's over the top when he goes to the school, the class, and it's like an overflow, and it's like they're literally looking at a speaker, and it's like the
Yeah.
professor is giving the lecture from a different it's almost like a recording, but
Yeah.
that's a little. I think it's a little over the top. I highly doubt that
Yeah, they might have,
actually happen. I hope.
it's probably a little exaggerated, but probably not too far off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
And like the whole, I, him, just his whole family and how much, pressure they were putting on him to go to school, and almost like, and him not getting accepted, him, his father really going hard on him, talking about he's failed his
Oh
future.
my
And
god, that the scene at the party.
like it's very relatable if right out of high school you just really you don't even know what the hell you want to do, you know what I mean? And you know it's it's very hard trying to, within 4 years, figure out the hell you're going to do for the rest of your life. It's a
Well,
lot of pressure within
it's not
itself.
even 4 years. Like you have to. The whole thing is you have
Oh
to
yeah, prep.
decide. You
Yeah.
have to decide basically over one summer, or unless you've already got a concrete plan, you have to decide over one summer what you want to do because you have to pick a major. Because if you don't pick a major, you're just basically either going to spend an extra year because you not wasted, but didn't use that first year towards your major, or you're just going to get a general arts degree because you don't have another choice at that point. Unless
Exactly.
you want to spend an extra 2 to 3 years in school trying to actually work towards a different major.
Yeah, and most people, they don't, a lot, well, there's a large percentage of people who settle in their career. It's not what they got into school for, you know what I mean? It's always something slightly different.
I mean, it could
And
even be something that people really love to do, like when they were in school for it, but now 20 years later, it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. Well,
Yeah,
sorry,
for
but
whatever.
that's what you went to school for. That's what you've been doing. You've got 20 years experience. And if you want to switch, you're going to find a minimum wage job and start at the bottom.
Yeah. And I find that relatable with Justin Long character only because not being accepted obviously, but just not really knowing what the next step is.
Yeah.
And feeling like, you know, growing up, especially, with your parents beating up your ass about it, but you have to graduate, and as soon as you graduate you have to go to college. And if you just don't feel like rushing into it, I mean, yeah, I find it very relatable with his character in that aspect, and the pressures of the of family members.
Yeah, I find the same thing. I mean, you get, like you say, when he's talking about getting into school, he's like, no, I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life, because what's honestly, unless you have a legitimate plan, what 17-year-old does. Like when you graduate high school, you're 17, 18 years old, and you're supposed to pick this thing that's going to allow you to live the rest of your life doing this in this career. And then even when you get to the scene where Lewis Black is playing the dean of the college, I love that he lays it out in such layman's terms and so matter of factly. And he basically says, why do kids want to go to college? Because they want to find a good job with a great starting salary.
Yep.
You see so many of these schools, like they advertise, oh, follow your dreams and this and that. And to be honest, most of these kids don't know what their dreams are. It's just they want a job that's going to pay them a good amount of money so that they can make a good life for themselves and their families in the future. It's not about dreaming. It's about how do I realistically get what I want out of life in terms of the house, the car, the all those things, because that's what our world
Yeah,
is based
you're
around.
told like, yeah, you're told like that's what you should want. That's what the goal should be. And for a lot of people, sure, that you could have all that, everything planned, and you could find your passion and whatnot. But for another large percentage of people, they don't. And yeah, man, I didn't realize, because again, I was I haven't seen this movie in decades. I yeah, I grew myself really appreciating this movie a lot more.
See, and that's something so this is from when I first saw it, and again, I think mine would have been a rental or like I would have saw it on TV type of situation. But I've been a huge fan of this movie since the first time I saw it, and I've told so many people over the years, oh, if you've never seen it, you should really watch Accepted, um because it's a really good movie that I think most people, if not everyone, can identify with some part of it,
Oh yeah, I agree.
whether you're talking like one of the main, like the four main characters, or any of the other random kids who get accepted.
Yeah, like Penguin.
Dude, I didn't even realize that was him until I watched it today and he showed up and I was like,
Me
that's
neither,
fucking
man.
Penguin from Gotham.
Yeah, me neither, man. But yeah, that was a good.
And even in this, he's really good. What is it? Abernathy Darwin Dunlap? Oh, just call me ADD on account of that I have ADD.
Exactly. Not yet. No, he was. Yeah, like even like the side characters are. They'll have like their moment.
Glenn,
Nobody
the guy who plays Glenn, is so underratedly hilarious in this movie.
for sure.
He's fucking awesome. I can't tell you how many times I have quoted just randomly when later in the movie when he blows out the door of the kitchen and he's like, I'm working with some very unstable herbs.
Oh yeah, he had a bit of a run as like a side character in like TV and movies, and I always got a kick out of him.
I honestly think Justin Long should have a better career than what he has.
He had a crazy run in the early 2000s, but
And
like I don't know
not
what
as
happened.
not not as a star, like as a starring role.
But I mean,
He popped up in.
he was in a decent amount of movies to where it should have had enough momentum to carry him to that next level, like a Jonah Hill. You know what I'm saying?
I agree, and I actually think Justin Long does a better job in this movie than Jonah Hill. And I mean that could also be
Oh yeah, because
because
he
Justin
has to
Long is
carry
the
the movie.
star, but
Yeah, he has to carry it, you know. But you
oh,
know, I do enjoy Jonah Hill's character and even his whole thing where he was at the college and
he hated it.
was he was part of a lineage that went to that college and he he thought he had everything that that was supposed to he did everything and he felt like he should have felt like this is right.
Yeah, it's
But
that
thing
typical look in people. Oh, you go to school, you go to college, you join the fraternity, or the female joins the sorority, because that's what's expected of you, and you're told for your whole life that you're gonna love it. It's so great. It's this and that. When in reality, it kind of fucking sucks.
yeah, and it's even if it's just not for everybody. It's just not for everybody. And
Like
this movie really lets you know it really it shows you that message with in different perspectives within
I'm
different characters.
sorry, but if I wanted to join a fraternity, now I don't think they're allowed to do a lot of the hazing that they do in they were doing
Yeah,
back then in '06.
they had to
But
ease back a lot.
if 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 I was in school and it was like, oh, you want to come join a fraternity, and it was like, yeah, that sounds kind of cool, and then I show up and it's, oh, in order to join, you have to let us beat you with a paddle or debase and embarrass yourself basically for an entire year just to allow us or so that we
That's
can give you the quote
a
unquote
lot to think about.
privilege of hanging out with us. No way. Absolutely no. There's no way I would ever put myself through that.
And not every fraternity, their hazing is that level. There's just
No, it's
certain
not.
ones that are just they just push it too far. You know what I mean? But I would say the majority of them aren't really like
No,
that.
this is
It's
like the
just
exaggeration,
it's
the
just the
big
few.
bad one.
Oh yeah, for sure. And
It's
like
like a
I wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. There's no way. I don't care of the French benefits of
no.
being part of a club. I'm not going through anything like that in order to get in.
I want to ask you, what did you think of now? Number one, I don't know why, but I love the name Bartleby of Justin Long's character. I don't know why. It just makes me kind of laugh every time it's said.
That's some bullshit. That's some like 1930 actor.
Well, the first thing I think of when I hear Bartleby is that was Ben Affleck's character in Dogma, one of the angels.
Oh, I don't remember. I only
He was
remember.
Bartleby and Matt Damon was Loki.
Oh, okay.
But so that's the first thing that comes to mind. But then I don't understand. Now this is another writing thing. So it seems like the only people who say Bartleby are his parents, and they're only in the
Makes
movie for
sense.
a few minutes here and there. Everybody else calls him B. So
Yeah,
just give him a different name. If you're not going to use it for three-quarters of the movie, just give him a different name.
I guess they just wanted him to have a goofy ass name.
I get it because I kind of chuckle when he does, but he is. I will say, as much as you grow to like him genuinely in this movie, when he starts off, he is a very he's portrayed as very manipulative and kind of cringeworthy for some of the things. I mean, he kind of when he's talking to his sister when he gets
Ah,
rejected, some of the things that he says, he like
the worst character.
they sound kind of funny, but he's like he tells me he was able to get out of gym class because he claimed to be allergic to sweat. Which number one makes me question the intelligence of the adults in this movie or this
I
universe.
mean, it's probably trying to paint a picture of his character.
Oh, that's
He's
exactly what it's doing.
he's smart, but he's
He's
also,
clever and he's street smart.
yeah, exactly. It was
But
it was
then,
to paint the picture.
it's when the cringeworthy part is when he talks about getting a bully expelled for 2 years because he claimed sexual harassment because he said when the guy pushed him up against a locker, he said he felt something. I'm like, oh my God.
It was 2006, man.
I
You
know that a
have
lot flew by the
there's
radar, but I
inflation
was like,
there,
oh
man.
my good God.
There was inflation there. You got to think of the comedy inflation. Uh, a it yeah. It was one of those kind of little awkward little chuckles that I got, but it didn't. Yeah, but again, it's a product of its time.
I mean, and it's one of those things where, like I said, when he talks about the other stuff that he convinced the teachers and the people at school. Um,
And I think it mostly is to have, because he has to have some type of character development. So they had to have some type of extreme version of his his personality.
yeah.
That's not much of an asshole, or just enough to where he
Well, it
could
goes from
paint the picture.
he was making all that stuff up to better his situation, whereas by the end of the movie, he's doing it to better everyone's.
Hmm. Exactly.
Um,
But
but I have to question the intelligence of the adults and the parents in this movie, like because, like I say, those things that he manipulates the school with, and then I first of all, when he gets rejected by his last school, he sits down and he's telling his he's going to his parents and he's like, well, school costs $20,000 a year, and the average low level job pays 20,000 a year. So wouldn't it make more sense for me to make 80 grand and then you guys to spend 80 grand over the next 4 years? And it's like, no, because then in year five, you're still going to be making the same amount. And it's like your argument doesn't make any sense. So in that moment, it's like his parents have rational brains in their head. And then when he gets the letter that he wrote himself for the acceptance, it's the most obvious thing in the world that he knows it's coming. And they're just like, what could this be? Like you would think that if there was another college down the road in the same town you live in, you would know about it
you would know at least a little bit of it, at least, unless
or have
it's
heard of it.
true. There's certain, yeah, there's certain things in this movie that you
And it's
have to
another one of
you
those
have
things
to accept.
because movie. Because if you
Just
didn't
like,
accept it, it'd be over.
yeah, kind of like, how did they clean up an entire asylum,
Mental
abandoned asylum,
institution.
in a fucking weekend? It seemed like a
Yeah.
weekend. So
It seemed like it seemed like a day, like a couple hours.
so it's just one of those things that, yeah, that's obviously impossible unless you're goddamn the Flash. You just roll with
Also,
it.
why would a mental institution have a pool? That seems like a recipe for absolute disaster.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe lobotomized people.
Went for a swim, that would be called drowning.
Maybe I'm I'm sure they could swim. They're just more subdued emotionally, but I'm sure they could still need a good swim. I don't know. Just
Now,
roll with it. All right.
well, another thing
But
this
yeah,
movie
no,
does
it
that I
doesn't make
always,
any sense.
another thing this movie does that I always tend to laugh at. Now, where we grew up, there were two. There was like, again, we're gonna kind of we call it university and college, but the states would call it college and community college. So we have one of each of those in the town that we live in. And I knew a lot of people who went to both schools. I always think that it's funny in movies when they portray that people go to a school that is in their hometown and yet they pay the extra money to live in the dorms. I know a lot of people who went to the university and to the college and not a single one of them stayed in the dorms because they lived in the city. I don't know why movies that take place in the States do that, because I don't know if it's like that over there that you kind of almost have to, but over here it's such an unrealistic concept, at least to me.
Yeah, I don't know how it works, but I'm gonna assume that I don't think it's mandatory, but it's one of those things that I guess American culture they just do more of for whatever reason.
Because I remember when I got into college, we lived maybe like a 5 minute drive away from the school. And I remember when I got in, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go stay in the dorms. And my parents looked at me and it was like, the fuck you are? Like, you live down the street. And I was like, yeah, but in movies, they live in the dorm. Like,
That's how it works.
isn't that part of the whole thing? And it's like, no, the part of the thing is you're going to school to get an education, not live in dorms.
This is bullshit.
Kind of.
Yeah, I'm just gonna assume most of those are just like international students.
Yeah, that's usually what it seems like.
I guess.
Um, but yeah, you mentioned earlier about the way his dad kind of
Oh
treats
God.
him. Like I wrote it
Right?
down. I wrote it down when they go to that party, the barbecue, whatever, the congratulations thing, and he's trying to basically explain that he didn't get it anywhere, and he's like, I didn't get it, and his dad just immediately just throws him under the bus, and he's like, I have the quote written down. He goes, yeah, Bartleby screwed around and now he's not going to college. He's thrown his life away. It's like,
I mean, you can apply next year. It's not like you only get one shot at applying to college in life.
shit, he could probably apply for the winter semester and only miss out
Exactly.
on a couple months of school. And how many people do the whole like I'm gonna backpack or across Europe or I'm gonna hop in my
Yeah.
car and do a road trip around the US?
Or just
Like,
work for a year.
yeah,
You know, anything.
that's
And
another thing this movie
on top,
portrays. It's the end all be all is you're done high school, you have to go to college. End of story.
right? Like
No
how
ifs,
many
ands, or buts. No, like
exactly?
this is what you're doing.
Like just as long as characters rebuttal, instant rebuttal should have been some of
What?
the most successful CEOs and owners of the biggest companies in the world didn't go to college.
No, he goes with the random famous people didn't go to college. He's like Einstein didn't go. I think he says Siegfried and Roy.
Yeah, he
And oh,
they
the other one I wrote down is Pocahontas didn't go to college.
he didn't. That's facts. I don't think
Not that
they.
they didn't exist.
Well, yeah, but even still,
Semantics, I know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, but like the that yeah when he, I think they just kind of rather go for the laugh with that instead of actually him being more
Trying
realistic
to make
about
a
it.
legitimate argument. Yeah.
Yeah, because school isn't, especially now, you can be very successful without doing any schoolwork
I mean,
past high school.
unfortunately, in this world, there are people who are vastly successful who have never finished high school, and a lot of that is
Yeah,
because of things like TikTok and social media.
yeah, Twitch and video. Just there's a whole new world of ways to gain revenue that's not tied to going in debt in post-secondary education.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wanted to quickly interject that this movie kind of reminded me of another movie, a kids movie in the 90s. Not a lot of people heard about it, but I remember watching it, and I don't know how I was looking for this movie
Are
to watch,
are you
and
referring to Camp Nowhere?
yes sir.
I love that movie.
Yes sir. Yeah, man, this is basically,
it's the adult version of Camp Nowhere.
it's
That's
yeah,
exactly what it is.
it's very similar. I just wanted to say that.
Sorry to kind of like cut you off there. I was
Good
like,
movie though.
Camp Nowhere
Camp
is a great
Nowhere's
movie.
very for as a kids '90s movie. It's one of those that is an underrated. I don't think a lot of people have seen that one, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know where I saw that. I think it was on TV one day, and I was like, "Oh, Christopher Lloyd movie," and
Right? He's the fucking Louis Black.
yeah.
But no, yeah,
And
that's
it's
a huge.
another movie that the main character has a weird name because that kid's name is Mud. But I do like the way that they set up the school when they do open it, and I do like that he just randomly. I do like that when he writes the letter, he just randomly comes up with a name, and I love when Jonah Hill's doing the website. He's like South Harmon Institute of Technology. You realize that shit, right? Like that's what the acronym. And he's like, just I came up with it like as an emergency type thing. Like it was real quick. Just fucking write the website.
Yeah.
But no, the
Yeah.
way they set up the school is so interesting, and yet it looks like the greatest time ever.
Yeah. I mean, it's a concept that I wish would be implemented in at least more schools where like the students have more control over what they want to learn and how they want to go about it. I mean, yeah, within certain parameters and context. I think that's one of the better ways to do it
Yeah,
because
like
that's a
there are a couple things in this movie where you're like, okay, that there's nothing really like the one scene it's in the trailer and every TV spot there's ever been for this movie is when you've got the three girls on the rafts in the pool and just a group of guys watching them and the one guy's like, I can't believe this is a class. Like there's no way
oh
that would
yeah,
ever work, but it's true. Like you look at like Rory does her meditation thing and Hans does the art sculptures. Like he didn't know how to do that. He would have had to look up techniques on how to carve that thing. And that's learning. You're just
exactly.
not learning in the traditional sense.
Yeah, you're not being forced to attend some classes that you have no interest in, and even the ones that you are, they're being taught by people that aren't interested or aren't passionate about the subject. So it kind of rubs off on you a little bit.
Well, I mean, even you've got the girl who I believe I only realized at this time her name is Kiki, the girl who was the stripper. He allows her to basically take the school colors and design clothing, basically turns her into a clothing designer.
Exactly.
And it's just a very innovative way of doing things because how many of us have ever said like, oh, when I was in school, I learned the to figure out measurements of a triangle or do these other things, but I never learned how to balance a checkbook or do my taxes or any of those things that are actual real world skills that you will need in your life. But I'm never, well, my line of work, it helps to know how to measure a triangle. But I'm, there are things that I learned in high school that I'm never going to need again, except for when I wrote them on a test 20 some years ago when I was in school.
Yeah, absolutely. It
But like you say, it has to be done in the right, it would have to be done in the right parameters with the proper supervision.
I agree.
Because if you
Exactly.
give if you just give this is another thing of if you just give kids free reign, it turns into just massive parties like they have in this movie.
Exactly. And people blowing shit up.
With their
Yeah,
minds.
that has to be that definitely has to be supervised.
That is one of my favorites is when he's asking what people want to do and he's like, I want to learn how to blow shit up with my mind.
It's like, okay, I think
Write that down on the board and it's like the tiniest little letters.
as it should. So, yeah.
Um, one of the so there's a couple of scenes, a couple lines that I wrote down that involve Jonah Hill. Well, one of them is in a line. It's just my favorite scene with him. But one of them is when they're first, before they actually turn it into a college, when they're first going into the building, when they're going to like kind of see what's there, how bad a shape it is.
Oh man.
They're going to go in, and Jonah Hill
Oh man.
stops, and he's like, "Come on, are you scared?" And he goes, "No, I'm not scared." And he goes, "Dude, you were afraid to try the new flavor of Dr. Pepper." And he's like, "I told you that in confidence, Hands."
Exactly. Yeah, just his delivery.
Yeah,
It's it's
he's so sincere about it. Like, how could you possibly betray my trust?
is that that's your favorite line? Is that your
Oh
favorite scene?
my favorite scene is when the body falls and his scream.
Oh, that fucking scream.
But it's the scream followed up by him like he looks so ashamed and he's like, "I'd really appreciate it if you didn't tell people that I scream like that."
Yeah. No, yeah, that got a big laugh because I forgot about it.
Oh,
I
that
remember
is that is ingrained in my head.
I remember watching the movie and loving like or laughing my ass off during that. And I remember Jonah Hill screaming in a movie like that.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember which one and yeah, when it came on I was like, "Oh, yeah, it's this one." And I just started dying laughing.
If and honestly, it wouldn't have been nearly as funny if he didn't follow it up with the "Don't tell anybody I scream that way."
Yeah, it just was the icing right on the cake there. Beautiful way to end that that's that scene. That was a perfect line. That was great, man. And just the delivery. He was good. Or he still is. But
I think all four of the main characters are really good in this movie. Like, excuse me, I've always liked Maria Thayer since this movie, and the only other thing that I've really ever noticed her being in was she's married to Jack McBrayer in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I got
That's
him with you.
really the only other thing. But I thought she did a really good job in this movie. So did the guy who plays Hans and Glenn. They all do a fantastic job, I thought. And they
Yeah.
really do seem like a group
I
of real friends.
got it playing and the
I do as well.
Jonah Hill puts the mop in the paint
Oh,
and
it
he
just
starts throwing the
throws it at the
fucking mop.
wall.
Yeah, man. No, this is totally I gotta ask if a lot of people have seen it, but
That's the thing. I don't think a lot of people have.
from my just trying to find the movie,
Yeah, I had to rent this on Amazon.
and I like to after rewatching it, I like to find the clips on YouTube that are the best parts, and kind of rewatch it. And no, not a lot of people. There's not a whole lot of reviews or even people just talking about it like that.
Yeah. I mean, now we're talking what? It's 17 years old, but
But yeah,
I I think that this movie could be just as relevant today than as it was back when it came out.
yeah, you definitely would have to tweak some things, but it could definitely adapt to 2020, the newer way of things.
And I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure this was the movie that introduced me to Blake Lively. And so therefore this movie will always have a place in my heart.
Oh yeah. See, my guilty
Because what was
pleasure.
she on? Gossip Girl?
Yeah.
Is that the one she was on? Because I never watched any. I didn't know if it was that or the OC or I never watched any of
XOXO,
those.
XOXO Gossip Girl. Yeah, man. I if there was enough pretty girls and there was
You watched Gossip
teen
Girl, didn't
drama,
you?
it was the one I watched the least, but it was on rotation with all the other ones at the time.
Okay, I can't lie. I used to watch Dawson's Creek.
Dawson's Creek. I like One Tree Hill. That was my shit.
See, I never watched any of that.
One Tree Hill was my show. for sure. I watched that probably out of all those, probably the most. I'd have to go back and remember all the teen drama shows at that time, but I'm pretty sure it was One Tree Hill was watched the most, and then Smallville, but that's because it had Clark Kent, and Superman in it.
I mean, I like I said, you and I discussed this. I recently watched Smallville. I still haven't quite finished it, but I don't know why I didn't watch it when it came up. Oh, and I am at the part in the movie where your favorite Jonah Hill part, and I only know about it because you've told me about this already. I forgot that his hands are doing like his hand is doing like the tickle motion.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
completely forgot about that.
that was definitely in the trailers. That moment where he goes down with his and kind of cusps his hand there. Yeah. This movie is it's pretty brilliant, man. I think it
But
just didn't get enough respect in 2006.
I'll be honest, I'll tell you what it was, and I have this written down somewhere for a later part of my notes, but I honestly think the reason this didn't get the
Did
play
it get
that,
buried?
and the reason I think that didn't get the play and did get buried, yeah, is because this movie didn't rely solely on sex or raunch comedy.
Yeah,
I
there
mean,
was no
it has a little bit of that, but the majority of it is legit storyline.
yeah,
And
there's no shock value, and
no,
during that
and
time,
there's no like fucking American Pie sex crimes.
they're not really there's not a whole lot of they swear, but it's not every other word is a swear word type situation. You know what I mean? It's they kind of just let the comedy not
And
rely.
the majority of the time they swear they're saying shit because it's Jonah Hill referring to what he named the school.
So yeah, it's you know it's a movie that relies on being funny than type of like comedy tropes that were heavily used in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And it could have been a thing. What it came out in August. It could have been one of those things where another comedy or another movie came out in theaters and it just came at the wrong time. I don't even know if that was the situation, but it is possible
Oh, it's 100% possible.
because that's usually how it goes with a lot of movies that you don't really know why it didn't gain as much traction as it really should have.
Yeah. And I mean, I will say so. Like we've kind of discussed most of the characters. Um,
Oh,
that
can I my the one I didn't like, the one that was the worst to me,
who's that?
the little sister, man. I hate that
That
I'm
trope.
smarter, I'm a fucking goddamn genius, but I'm one step ahead of everybody. I kind of know what's going on, but I'm not gonna snitch completely.
Well, but you remember why she doesn't snitch, and this is the trope that I really didn't like. Is so she when she shows up at the school and it's basically just a giant party, and she's blackmailing him. She's like, I know what's going on here, which
Okay,
I
yeah.
don't know if she really does, but she knows something's off, but I don't think she knows exactly what he's up to. But she's basically framing it like, I know what you did, and I'm going to tell mom, and I'm going to tell dad, and
But it
um,
doesn't like there's no really payoff. She's just kind of just there to be that annoying
yeah,
sister who's like the Dee Dee character. She's like Dee Dee from Dexter's Laboratory. She's the one who's super. She's just annoying. Like, but
well,
there's no real payoff at the end of the day.
it's the genie character from Ferris Bueller, the spiteful. Um, Now the difference is that she's more the one doted on by her parents, but it's like she wants to get him in trouble. Like she wants to get him caught because, and I don't really know why, but he then when she shows up there, she's trying to blackmail him, and he's like, "What do you want?" Her first thing is $20,000, and if I was him, I'd be like, "Sold. Here you go," because they've already said that they had 100 students pay $10,000.
Yeah. I just
And
feel like yeah.
but
I
then
just feel
then she's like, he says no to that, and she goes from 20 grand to give me your razor scooter and a fake ID. And I love that he's like, you want to? I'm not gonna let you drink. And she goes, no, I want a fake ID to vote, dumbass. And it's like, that's the
yeah.
trope that irritates me. Like, what? She looks like she's about 12.
Yeah, she's like
What?
the perfect. Yeah,
What
it's.
12-year-old wants to vote? Like, really?
I mean, yeah. Hey, she's
No,
one
but
again.
like, yeah, it's the trope
The
of I'm
way the
better than
way they wrote
everybody.
her character, yeah, the way they wrote her character, yeah, that character would because it's is it real? No, it's there's not a hint of realism in this character at all. Besides, just being a bratty sister. But I feel like if she really wanted to bust him, she's smart enough to have done that. The way they portray how smart she is in the movie. If
Yeah.
they really wanted to go down that road, you know what I mean? It's just they didn't. They just kind of just decided to put this character in there for whatever reason as some type of conflict or whatever. But you take her out of the movie and it really doesn't change anything to me.
No. All it does is he has nobody to talk to when he gets rejected by that last school.
Exactly.
Because that's really all it is she's sitting in his room and he's telling her, like, I didn't get into this school and it was my safety school. So I'm going to ask, what did you think of Lewis Black in this movie?
He's okay. I mean, he's less ranty. As a comedian, I think I'm just really not a big fan. Um, but I find him fine. He was speaking facts at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I can't really hate on him. And when it comes to acting, I think he always does a good enough job to where you can believe whatever he wants you to, which character he's trying to portray. Um, I thought it was okay, but
He
again, yeah, I appreciate it more as someone who's older because
what
his
he's saying
words
makes a lot
spoke.
of sense.
Yeah, it rung more true in my older age as opposed to my youth.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis Black, for anybody who doesn't know, his stand-up comedy is like the epitome of the angry old man. And
Oh yeah.
there was a time when I really did find his comedy funny, and it probably would have been right around the time this movie came out. Um, I think that he does bring good things to the movie, but like you said, there are scenes where he is too ranty, and it's too much. It seems too much like his stand-up, and it doesn't need to be that.
Yeah.
It, like, and I'm pretty sure that if this was a real situation and any parents showed up to this school to drop their kid off, and that was the meeting that they had with the dean where he's like yelling and screaming at them for he looks like he's having like a mental episode. Like he's
Yeah.
just completely losing it. And then all of a sudden he looks at Justin Long and he's like, oh yeah. And then he's completely calm again. I'd be like, there's something not quite right about this school.
Yeah, it would be a major red flag for sure. Especially a man who's should be a lot more professional and he isn't in any professional manner, especially like an institution for school for higher learning. You would think, yeah, there wouldn't be a guy kind of acting that way.
He seems completely off his rocker the way he behaves.
Absolutely.
Um, it's it really gets into some bad terror. Like I like as it continues to go, and you just kind of see the school continue to evolve. The big giant party looks. I mean, that looks like the greatest party that I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's the thing about
Especially once the sprinklers come on.
that's the thing about teen movies or college movies. The parties are always
Way
like you
better
want.
than
Oh yeah, any party you've ever been to ever.
yeah. Like I've been to parties and they're usually like, oh, this is a lot of fun, like this and that. And then you watch these movies and it's like, no, that doesn't happen.
Right? Not a whole lot of parties where they're sucking on a woman's boobie for
For
what
14 hours
14 hours.
or 13 hours. And once again, Jonah Hill.
Yeah. Again, another role where he attends a party where you would definitely would
An
like to
epic party.
another epic party for sure.
But there's another. So I'm a little bit further ahead of you in the while it's on the TV in the background, and it
Where are
it's
you
the
exactly
scene
at?
right now. I'm at the part where they're about to beat the shit out of Jonah Hill's character Sherman.
I think I'm just before you. He's
Yeah.
playing they're at Justin Long's talking to Blank Lives character right now.
Oh,
At
in the
like
dorm.
the fraternity house.
Oh, you're considerably before me.
Okay, yeah. I think I paused it at some point.
Okay. No, but this is the scene where he gets like woken up, like he's gonna be initiated into the fraternity. And he
Okay.
shows up and he walks in the house and he's like screaming. He's like, yes, I want it. I want to be like you guys. And I wrote down the quote and he says, I want lilac shirts. I want visors tilted to the sides with hair gel coming out of it.
Yeah, because
Because they're the
that was
typical
style.
that's the typical style back then with the spiky frosted tip hair. And
Yeah. Oh yeah, the good old days.
but then of course the follow up of that scene is they beat the shit out of him because they want they want to know what's going on at this South Harmon Institute of Technology, because we didn't really get into the fact that the dean of the actual Harmon College wants to basically destroy it to create this gigantic entranceway because he wants to be like these Ivy League schools.
Yeah, it's the major conflict or main conflict of the movie.
So I don't know if that's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a loose 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 plot hole, like a plot point, I should say, that's the only reason. Because had he decided that he just was perfectly fine with the way his university was running, there never would have been a need for Hoyt, is the guy's name, to show up at the school and find out that they were posing as a university and then report it to the president or the dean and all this other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
but I mean, you need to have those types of things. And then almost immediately after that, of course, you get the parents show up and the whole school gets shut down because, well, it's not a real school. And so apparently you can't just make up a school and charge random people $10,000 to show up.
You can't?
Who knew that was against the law?
Damn, I gotta rethink things then. I don't think that was illegal.
I mean, like, so I mean, from this point on, it kind of gets real quick to the end. When they get to this oh my god, I can't even say it, accreditation hearing that Jonah Hill decides to apply for them so that they can actually possibly become recognized as a real school, which Spoiler alert, would never work. I'm just saying. This could be the skeptic in me, but I don't think it would ever work.
Probably not. The suspicion that no.
No, but so they end up going to this hearing, and I like that just before they go to sit down, and I don't know if I've ever noticed it before in any of my watches previously, is as they're getting up to go sit in front of the panel, the board that they're talking to, Justin Long says, "If this doesn't work, I'm going to prison." And Lewis Black goes, but you're young, your butt can take it."
Yeah. I mean,
again,
usually,
not the most PC line, but it kind of still made me chuckle.
Before, it was a very sensitive matter. Whenever somebody would mention the thought of prison, that usually some type of joke like that would be the follow. And yeah, not so much now, just because.
No.
But yeah, usually that was the, if a character who isn't, tall or well built, they ever mention prison in a movie, especially a comedy, what was to follow is definitely along the lines of
Oh, don't drop the soap.
Exactly. That's usually the stereotypical line.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, it was always,
which becomes kind of a cop out, because it's like every movie says it, and but I mean,
it's
like
major.
Put yourself in these other kids or even the parents' shoes. How pissed would you be if you had shelled out $10,000, or your parents had shelled out $10,000, and then you really think you're doing something at this school, and then all of a sudden all these people show up and it's like, nope, everything's been a lie. This is all bullshit. You don't belong here. Get out, more or less.
Oh yeah, looking at it from a parent's perspective, oh yeah, I could see the ultimate outrage, and it would be major repercussions from doing something like that. But Justin Long's speech was pretty epic. I'm not gonna lie.
Dude, his speech at the end in front of the board is awesome.
It's epic. It's definitely it didn't like shed a tear or anything, but something it spoke to me. It really and it grabbed a hold. It really spoke to me.
It's something it's something that another podcast that I listened to would refer to as a big chill moment.
Exactly. Like definitely a mic drop. You want to go that route. But yeah, it definitely gave you some type of feels, whether it be whatever.
But I mean, let's be honest, if there was an actual hearing like that, and with the exact stipulations that this movie shows, could you imagine be like, oh, bring in your show us your course guide, and they bring in a fucking white dry erase board.
Exactly.
And it's all this nonsense written on it.
And if this was set in the real world and Justice Long's character Bartleby,
yeah,
gave that exact speech, that would not even have mattered at all. They still it wouldn't have mattered. They still would have been like, "You're fucking nuts. You got to pay all these people back. I don't know how you're gonna do it. You have to go to prison, sir. I'm sorry."
He'd go to prison for a long time. You know when it would do that, like when they would immediately be like, no, you're done, is when they're like, do you have a faculty? And Glenn goes, faculty stand, and all the students stand up. That they would literally be like, get out.
Like what? Yeah,
you're not get out.
It would have weakened any chance of.
Yeah, that probably would have hurt their cause.
Exactly. But
But
this is
I-
movie world, and in movie world, an epic ass speech will grant you the right to be a legitimate school.
Yeah. And I will say I did like that you kind of see in that moment his dad kind of turn. Like they show his parents and they both have this like kind of smile on their face, like he's right. Like, because he basically tells them like an educational institution is just supposed to be like a group of people who want to better themselves, and that's what we have. Like maybe we didn't do it your way with, as he puts it, like your ivory towers and things like that, but there was a lot of learning that went on. And I like when they show like the different um the different students, and then like hands like, oh, this was an art class where we sculpted wood and learned different techniques. And the one that always gets me is the guy who I actually realized he plays one of the vampires in Twilight.
Oh yeah, the freaking. I think he's.
The curly haired guy.
It's funny because he had a Hercules movie around the same time as The Rock's Hercules movie.
Yep.
So that's why I remember him.
But when they stand up and they're like, we built a skateboard ramp and it taught us about physics and engineering and aerodynamics. It's like, yeah, you would have to learn that type of stuff to build, because it looks like a 20-foot half pipe that they build. Like you would have to learn those things. Otherwise somebody could get killed using that. So like I do like that they illustrate that there was some merit in what they were doing, and it wasn't just literally like we're checking out girls and we're sleeping all day. And
Yeah, we're freaking.
I like the guy. I like the guy who does the rocker in Rock Your Faces Off. He's like, oh, we listen to the music of a lost generation and the angst that they describe. Plus, we rock our faces off.
Yeah, that line was well delivered for sure. Yeah, man. Just again, it's one of those things that that really gets me with the comedies is if you can have great side characters and just great delivery with lines. That'll definitely keep me rewatching the movie.
Yeah. And I would almost say that I'm not knocking or saying that dramatic actors or dramatic acting is easy or anything like that. But I honestly feel that it might actually be harder for some of these actors to do things to make people laugh
Oh,
than
100.
to make it seem like dramatically effective. But then you have movies like this where a guy like Justin Long is doing both of those things simultaneously. Like, because he's
Exactly.
funny
Oh
through
yeah.
this whole movie, but then at the same time, there are scenes where he's really downtrodden on himself, or um, he's really coming up with these inspirational moments, and you can feel it. And then the very next moment, he could make a joke that's completely off the wall but hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, in a lot of the movies that he was in that, specifically in the start of his career, uh, it all felt like that. It felt like e- it, even in the movies that aren't in a comedy, there's movies where he is being funny and he's nailing the bits where he has to emote,
Galaxy Quest.
or even Jeepers Creepers.
That's a movie that I almost forgot about that he was in.
He's crazy good in that movie.
I always say that I brought up Galaxy Quest because I like his bit part in
Oh
that.
yeah, He's good in that one too. Exactly.
I think
he's like
that's the first movie he
nerd.
did.
Yeah, he's like the fanboy. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, it was a great role, man. He killed
And
it. He knocked
then
it out of the park. He portrayed a like he what he's one of those guys that he's basically playing himself, just very different shades, just slightly different shades. Sorry, just slightly different shades of the same his self, right?
well, it's funny
And
because he's so cool and collected in this movie, and then you watch him in like Dodgeball, and he's the complete polar opposite.
yeah, he's kind of a loser, and
And then you can go to the complete opposite casting thing and look at his cameo in Zack and Miri Make a Porno.
exactly.
That is one of
Okay.
my favorite cameo roles that he has ever done. I could watch
Oh
just
yeah.
that clip and just laugh hysterically.
It's definitely a legendary cameo in that in a comedy for sure. And I this movie, or at least his character, I would say is very similar to his character in Waiting.
Oh, you're right. I totally forgot about his character in Waiting, but you're right because that whole movie, he's debating of whether he wants to go back to school or whether he should stay at the restaurant and take the assistant manager job. I completely that went right over my head. But you're right.
Hmm.
That's another great Justin Long movie. I mean, it's him and Ryan Reynolds, but still.
Yeah, but Ryan Reynolds was more of like he wasn't in it. He wasn't the central character. He was definitely shown in promotion, but he didn't really.
That movie
He
was
was just
more of an
one.
ensemble.
Yeah, he was just part of the cast. He just wasn't really starring. But yeah, no, it was definitely an ensemble. But again, Justin Long, he carried a lot of it, with just his just the way he does, his performance. It's a blend between serious and funny.
And it's funny that you bring up Waiting because I just realized that I'm almost positive. So the other girl in this movie that the one guy cheats on Blake Lively with,
Mm.
I believe she's the other waitress in Waiting. It's Anna Faris and her, and then the girl with the dark hair. I'm almost positive that's her. I think her character in Waiting is named Amy.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'd have to double check, but yeah, no, I wouldn't doubt it, man. When
But
did Waiting
yeah,
come out? 07?
0708, something like that. That's another underrated comedy that anybody that I've talked to who's seen it loves that movie, and then people who have never seen it have probably never heard of it.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I've heard of it, and I've seen it a few times over the years. I
I
really
enjoy
enjoy.
it.
Yeah, it's good. But no,
It
if it is underrated, I have no idea. I just thought it was one of those movies not most people have seen, but a decent amount.
it makes me terrified to ever send food back in a restaurant, that I can tell you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Or if I do, I am the
I
nicest person you've ever met.
Yeah, it teaches you that if you're gonna have a complaint, you got to be very nice about it.
You kiss all the ass.
Oh yeah,
But no, of
definitely.
course, so the end of this is obviously it's a movie, so they win. They get a 1 year probationary accreditation period to prove that their um, abnormal curriculum, I forget what word he uses, um, experimental maybe, they're allowed to do that for 1 year. Now, let's be honest. Do we really think it's going to last? Like, I don't think that having a school run this way would ever actually work. As
No,
great
because you have
as
to.
great as the idea is, I don't think it would work because I don't think kids are going to be disciplined enough to make it work.
Oh, and like, what degrees are they gonna? And do those degrees? Would they really be
Would they
valid?
matter as much?
No, I don't think you'd be able to apply to a lot of
No,
positions.
because could you imagine being like, oh, I got a mechanical engineering degree from MIT, and it's like, oh, I got an engineering degree from the South Harmon Institute of Technology. Well, what did you do to earn that? Well, we built
I,
skateboard ramps and oh, so do you know how to use this program that we use at this company? No. Do you know the rules of this, and that? No.
but I know
Get
how to
out.
blow up. I know how to blow up things with my mind. I mean, that's got to
Exactly.
be.
Like it's like, okay, get out. Like it's not going to
I haven't
be
blown up anything
realistic.
yet, but I'm still learning.
I like that through the movie you see the progression of like he's getting things to move,
Yeah.
and then that's the big payoff at the end, just before the credits roll, is you see the dean of Harmon College, his car explodes, and then it just pans out, and it's him and Justin Long, and he's like, "I told you."
Right. Yeah. That definitely. See, it was a payoff. The movie that had that, and it paid off, and it was funny.
No, the only person I think this would actually work out for is the four main characters, I should say, because the minute they're done their quote unquote 4 years of schooling, just work at the school.
Yeah, and you could tell Justin. Yeah, and
They basically
Justin
became
Long,
teachers.
pretty much. Yeah, those characters would definitely be fine. The bulk of the students, though, I mean, they should make a sequel. Get a follow up where see the implications of that, like the fallout potential. But no, yeah, definitely. Yeah, this movie was great, man. I had such a good time.
Oh, well, I mean, we might as well move into final thoughts. Like I said, I love this movie when I first saw it. I still love this movie. It's one of those ones that I've seen many a times. Um, and to me, it's never really gotten old. And I think a lot of that is because it doesn't rely on those typical tropes of comedies from this time where it's not the sex comedy or the raunch comedy, or there's actual depth to it, and there's a story here. It's not just about the jokes and the comedy. It's about the people and these students and things like that. And I think that there's a lot of really good messages in this movie about the way we view post-secondary education. And I think that it would benefit quite a few people to look at this movie and really kind of reevaluate the system that we have um, for post-secondary school. But that being said, I would 100% recommend this movie to basically everybody, whether you've seen it or not. And if you haven't seen it, you're in for a treat. And if you have, um, I think you're still really going to enjoy it. And I mean, if you've seen it recently, you know that. If you haven't, like you won, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. But I'm going to give this movie a 7.5 out of 10. Um, I'm a
Mm.
I'm a big fan of this movie. I wanted to go higher, but I
Mm.
didn't know. I kind of hemmed and hawed at it, but I kind of landed it finally at a 7.5 personally. Um, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I probably enjoyed it probably a little bit more than I did my first watch some odd years ago, probably in 2006. Um, yeah, man, this is a comedy, a teen comedy, a college comedy. But yeah, it has a whole a good amount of messages, man, tied to it, which not a whole lot of comedies do, and if they do, they don't really do it as well. Um, yeah, the whole, there's even if we didn't get you didn't get accepted, or you don't know that feeling of not being accepted by a college. We've all had a feeling of not being accepted into something, and how how that goes, and just trying to figure out what you're going to do and all that stuff. Yeah, man. As well as you know, just all the even if you do have the everything that you've thought that you think that would make you happy, doing all the things that you're supposed to do, and realizing that it's just not for you. It's another good message that I definitely appreciate in this movie. Um, I give this I'd give this a 7.5 as well. I would recommend this for anybody who that is going through the college phase and have gone through it.
I would even show it to people who are like juniors in high school who are going to have to make these decisions about college in the next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Sorry to
for
cut you
sure.
off. I just kind of thought of that.
No, no. Yeah, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah, again, I would give it a 7.5 as well. I think that is a solid score to give this. And it's a shame that this isn't recognized as one of the great comedies of the early 2000s.
So I say it's like an unsung hero.
The hidden gem, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is it's good that people that discovered it love it and appreciate it. It would be better if
More people
more
did.
people watch it and knew exactly. It was in the zeitgeist.
I will champion this movie forever. I love this movie. And I mean, one other thing that I didn't get into, I'd like to talk about real quick, is when they're talking originally when they first make the college and they're talking about what they want to do. Hands, he's like, I'm thinking maybe something to do with woodworking or art or something like that. And he's like, I won this trophy for like making a paperweight at summer camp. And he's like, yeah, but the next day I ran a 4.640 and it's been football ever since. So it really shows the way certain things are valued in our society. Like he showed that he had this artistic ability, but the minute he shows that he could be a good athlete, it's like put all that aside and you only focus on this because this could make you famous and make you all kinds of money.
It's a better ride through, college if you go down the path that it's most popular, and that's sports, man.
Yeah.
Sports is it's the bread and butter for a lot of colleges, man, especially if you're a well-known
like you say when you talk about college and university as a business, sports is a big part of that.
Oh yeah.
But that all being said, I think that's gonna do it for this episode. And as always, we'd like to ask you to follow us on our socials, which will be posted in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe, give us a rate, a review, tell your friends about us. We'd really appreciate it. That's how we help grow this podcast. And next week, as a continuation of our underrated movies series, it's your pick, Juan. So take it away. What are we watching next week?
Oh no. So next week, I have pick. This was going to be my last pick, but there has been recent news about another not the same director, uh, but another famous director helming the sequel. So I figured let's not just tackle this one. So not only is my pick, I feel, is the most underrated animated film, I think it's the most underrated Spielberg film with the most underrated John Williams score.
I have no idea what you're talking about. And yet
Speaking
I feel
of
like as soon as you say it, I feel like my head's gonna explode as to like why did I not think of this?
Speaking of Spielberg, he is a huge fan of this because this is a franchise, but not through movies or TV. It's through novels. And it was actually a bit of an inspiration for one of his most famous movies, Indiana Jones. Some would call this movie Indiana Jones for preteens.
The fuck are you
And
talking about?
what we're watching next week is The Adventures of Tintin.
I've never seen this movie.
Not a lot of people have, man. And it's an honest shame because this movie is incredible. And the fact that Steven Spielberg chose to do this type of animation, some of the shots that he creates in this movie, if it would have been live action, it would have took months and a lot of money. This movie is from beginning to end an epic adventure. You're gonna have a good time if you are a fan of Indiana Jones-esque movies.
I remember Tintin from when I was a kid, but
Yeah.
I've never seen this movie. I remember when it came out, it was one of those things where I think I knew one person that saw it when it came out, and they said it was good, but I just kind of skipped it. I don't really have a reason why, but I mean, I like watching new movies that I've never seen for this podcast, and that's another reason why we created this, not only to kind of relive some of our favorite movies, but also to kind of broaden our horizons of film. And I'm actually looking forward to this. I'm gonna go into this with a completely open mind, and I'm hoping to enjoy it. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but I hope that I will.
Yeah. No, I have a feeling that you'll have a good time.
Okay, well, as I said, that's going to do it for this week. And join us next week as we watch The Adventures of Tintin. And
Yeah.
until next time, we want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And take it easy, everybody.
Peace.